Welcome to another Friday live webinar to help you prepare for the IELTS exam. And in this session, I'm going to be sharing my 7 tips for test day so that when it comes to test day and you're ready to sit and write your exam, you have no surprises and everything works out well and you have the success that you're looking for in the IELTS exam. So I want to welcome you. If you want to just say hello in the comments, you can do that and tell me where you're from. Or if you have any questions, don't hesitate to put them in the comments, whether you're watching this right now live or watching on the replay. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you have. So let's get started with 7 tips for test day. And I think the first tip is probably the most obvious, but it's so important. And the first tip I want to share with you is don't book your test before you're ready. Now, you've probably already spent years and months learning English and getting your English to the level where it needs to be for the IELTS exam, that high, intermediate, or advanced level. And by the time you book your test, you will have spent a few weeks or months getting to know everything there is to know about the IELTS exam. And this is so important because over 50% of IELTS test takers don't get the score they need the first time they take the exam. The average score for first-time exam takers is actually only 5.5. And if you want to get into university, for example, in a country like Canada, most universities for an undergrad program require a 6.5 in every section of the IELTS exam. So it's really important to make sure you're fully prepared. So if you need to assess your English or to make sure you're at the correct level, make sure you take the time to do that and make sure that you get to know everything there is to know about the IELTS exam. Again, you don't want to have any surprises on test day. And another thing is you don't want to have to do test day more than once. Test day is so important, and you want to make sure that you don't waste any time or money or energy by not getting the score you need the first time you take the test. And that's my mission. This is why I've created my Facebook group and YouTube channel. It's because I want to help you succeed in one attempt. So I'm going to encourage you to do 2 things right from the outset of this lesson. And that's when you come to the end of the lesson, make sure you look in the comments and watch the video that I've taken a few minutes to record about IELTS test prep. And with that video, you'll also want to get my free checklist. And this is really for beginners who are just starting out to make sure that you do everything you need to do before test day. So don't hesitate to watch that video and get that checklist. And don't book your test until you're ready. The second thing I want to mention is that when it comes to the actual day of the test, you've booked your test, you know what test center you're going to, and you know the time of your test. But don't take it for granted. Even if it's in a familiar area of your city, you'll want to make sure you plan very carefully to arrive at the right place at the right time, because this would be a disaster to lose your test just because you didn't show up on time or didn't go to the right place. So I would encourage you to, first of all, make sure that you're booking with a legitimate test center, either with British Council or IDP. And choose the center that's the best center for you, the most convenient, the easiest to get to. And then once you know where you're going, maybe even practice the day before. If you have to take the train or the bus, or if you're driving, don't leave it to test day. Plan your route and even do a dry run the day before or a couple of days before, just to make sure you know where you're going. You want to make sure you know exactly how to get there and how long it will take. Don't leave this to chance. It would be a shame to prepare for months and weeks for your test day only to arrive late and not be able to get entrance into the exam to be able to do it. So very carefully plan your route and practice it a day or two ahead of time. This is one worry that you don't want to have when it comes to test day. Very practical, but very important. Tip number 3, have everything you need when you go for your exam. For example, they will tell you exactly what to bring, what ID, what identification, and what documentation you need. Make sure that you have that with you. You don't, again, to show up without the right identification or documentation means you've just forfeited your test. So just these little practical things are the things that you want to make sure are going to happen automatically on test day. So have everything you need. But let me add a little extra tip here. Don't take anything that you don't really need, because you won't be allowed to take certain things into the test room. You won't be able to take your phone. You won't be able to take, even sometimes won't even be able to wear a watch. Everything you need for the exam is provided for you by the people who are presenting the exam. So unless you absolutely need anything, don't take it with you. One of the things that will happen is when you arrive on test day, you'll be asked to put your belongings, if you're wearing a jacket or a sweater or whatever you don't want to have in the test room, and you'll be putting it into storage. And that storage is secure, but you also don't want to take the chance of having anything too valuable among your belongings when you're putting it into storage. The only thing that you can take with you into the exam room is a bottle of water that with no label, so that it's really easy and clear to see what's in that bottle, and that's the only thing you're allowed. And in a few minutes, I'm going to give you a really important tip when it comes to that bottle of water. So make sure you have everything you need and don't take anything that you don't really need. This is so important. These are just practical things that will just make your life easier on test day and help you feel more comfortable and even confident with what you're about to face. So let's go to tip number 4. Make sure you arrive early. And I mentioned this about planning your route. You want to make sure that you not only arrive on time, but you arrive early. And I would recommend arriving even 30 minutes or 20 minutes early for the exam. And I want to give you a couple of really special tips about what to do when you arrive early. I had the opportunity to work as an invigilator for the IELTS exam and to see all the details of what goes into just getting into the test room and registering. And this is why I think it's important to arrive early. And here's uh, some really good things that you can do because you've arrived early. First of all, you can meet other test takers and you can have a little conversation with them, not in your native language, but in English. Just saying hello, having small talk. How are you doing? Because what this will do is just striking up a short conversation with other test takers will get you started thinking in English and start getting you aware of expressing yourself and communicating in English. So just having a little brief conversation with someone that you meet in line and meet at the test center, uh, That can just help you start feeling more comfortable and getting your mind around English and ready for what you're about to face. Now, depending on the test center you go to, there could be as many as 40, 50, or more people who are taking the exam at the same time as you. And there could be a long lineup. And usually, when we see a long lineup and think about arriving early, it's because we want to get to the front of the line. But here's my tip: don't do that. Let me just tell you a little bit about the process of getting into the exam room. First of all, you go to the registration desk, you present your documents, and then they will take a picture of you and get your thumbprint. And this thumbprint and picture is your identification for test day. And that'll take a couple of minutes. And then they will take you into the test room and assign you a seat. And then you will sit in that seat until everybody else has gone through the same process and been assigned their seat. Now, the exam itself, once the exam starts, takes up to 2.5 hours with the breaks in between sections. And by breaks, I don't mean you get a break, just that collecting answer sheets and handing out the new booklets. So you're going to be in there for a long time anyways. So what I recommend is when you see that lineup, don't try to go to the front of the line. It's better to stay towards the back, because that's when you're standing in line. You can have these little conversations with other test takers that I've mentioned. You can be standing instead of sitting in the room, absolutely silent, doing nothing. Because if you're the first person in line, you may end up sitting in that room for more than 20 minutes, 25 minutes before the exam even starts. And then the problem is you start drinking that only thing that you could bring in, that bottle of water, because you're bored and you're just thinking of something to do. You can't talk to anybody else once you're in the test room and you start drinking that water. And stay tuned for one of my tips about what happens if you end up drinking that water before the test even starts. So arrive early, talk to other people. Don't try to get to the front of the line. Stay towards the back where you can have more time for standing and having conversations, so that once you do get in the room, you're not sitting there for 20 or 25 minutes in silence waiting for the exam to begin. That's probably one of my favorite tips about test day, and I've seen how helpful it can be, because you don't want to get in that room really any earlier than you have to. Here's another really important tip. Make sure you get a good night's sleep before the exam. And it may be hard because you might be nervous and thinking about everything you might have to do. But don't stay up late studying. Don't stay up late practicing. If you've spent the amount of time required and you're fully prepared for the IELTS exam, staying up late and doing a little extra is not going to help you in any way. What you really want to make sure is that you're well rested and ready for test day. And at the end of that good night's sleep, just have the normal breakfast that you have any other day of the week. This is not the time for drinking extra coffee or having a different kind of breakfast. Again, you want to be able to predict exactly how you're going to feel so that you're totally comfortable once you get into the test room. So get a good night's sleep, have enough time to have a good breakfast or whatever you usually do in the morning, and then get to the exam center on time. You want to be well rested and ready for the exam day. Now let's get back to that bottle of water. Now that bottle of water, if you're sitting in the exam room for 25 minutes before the exam starts, you might be tempted to start drinking that bottle of water, and sooner or later you're going to have to go to the bathroom. Make sure you go to the restroom before you start the exam. That's another reason for arriving early. But here's what I want to tell you. If you need to go to the bathroom or take a break during the exam itself, it's on your time. You are not allowed any time, and you don't have any breaks between the sections to be able to go to the restroom. So remember the process that I just mentioned about when you have to register and arrive and you have your thumbprint and your picture? Well, here's what happens if you happen to go to the bathroom, let's say during the reading section, because you're not allowed to leave for any reason during the listening test. But let's say you get to the second section of the test, which is the reading test, and you have to go to the bathroom. Well, here's what has to happen. You have to put up your hand. The invigilator will come and ask you what you want. You'll say, I have to go to the bathroom. The invigilator will escort you. The invigilator will first of all take you to that registration desk and make sure that your passport and photo and thumbprint all match. And once they've confirmed that you are who you are, they will escort you to the bathroom. While you're in the bathroom, they'll wait for you. And when you're finished, you'll come out and they'll escort you back to the registration desk, where again, you'll have to show your photo and thumbprint. And then they'll finally take you back to your seat and you can start working on the reading section again. This is about a 10-minute process just to go to the bathroom. 10 valuable minutes that you will lose if you have to take a restroom break. So make sure you go to the restroom before you start the test. Make sure you don't drink too much of that water. Save it mostly for the end of the test. And make sure that you don't need to take a break while you're doing the exam. And my final tip, don't be nervous. Now, this is easier said than done. But let's go back to my very first tip. Make sure you're ready for test day. If you're fully prepared, this will calm your nerves as much as possible. But of course, even if you're fully prepared, you've invested a lot of time, you feel like you have a lot at stake in this couple of hours that could make the difference of getting into the university of your choice and going to the country of your choice. Well, of course, you're going to be a little anxious. Of course, you're going to be a little nervous. But just trust the preparation that you've done. Whenever you're starting to feel anxious or nervous, take a deep breath. If you need to, every once in a while, just put down your pencil, shake your hands out, make sure you put your shoulders down, and just take a breath and then continue. One little tip about being nervous, and for some reason, most test takers are most nervous during the speaking test. But I want you to know something, and it's just the way that you feel about the examiner who's testing you. That examiner is your friend, and you can think of them as your friend. You may not know them and you may never see them again, but for that 15 minutes during the speaking test, just remember that that examiner wants you to do as well as you can possibly do. They really want you to get the score that you can get, and they want you to display your English to the best of your ability. And they're not going to try and trick you. They're not going to try and make it more difficult for you. They are going to do everything they can to help you get the score that you need. So try not to be nervous. Try to be confident. And preparation is what brings confidence. And confidence is what makes you feel comfortable and not nervous. I hope you found these tips helpful for test day. Make sure you check out my next video, which is my video about how you can be fully prepared. And with that video, you'll also get a link to my free checklist, my IELTS Preparation Checklist, which will tell you everything you need to know right at the beginning of your IELTS preparation. If you're just starting out, this checklist is perfect for you. And don't hesitate to subscribe to this channel. There's over 100 videos for every section and every question type on the IELTS exam. Now, let me leave you with one bonus tip, and I think this is something that you should also plan ahead of test day, and that is make sure you celebrate. Once that exam's done, even before you get your score, make sure you have some kind of celebration plan because you've accomplished something amazing. Just getting to test day with all the preparation and planning you did, getting through the test, hopefully being very successful. Make sure that you have some kind of celebration plan. Get your family and friends together, maybe go out for dinner, have a little party, whatever. Just make sure that you mark the occasion of an amazing accomplishment that you've achieved. And I really hope that you can celebrate success on the IELTS exam. That's my mission. And I want to wish you all the best as you continue to prepare for the IELTS exam.